Thank you, everybody, for being here. We know it's hot. With me today, my name is Gisella Fu-Ripp. I am the SVP of Sales at LatiNation, manage revenue and partnerships. Really happy to be here. And with me on our beautiful panel, we have Jorge Plasencia, CEO and founder of Republica, Havas. And we also have Flor Palazzolo, CEO and founder of Civil Mafia. And of course, Alex Miranda leads inclusive marketing and growth markets at NOT. So welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you. So really to really talk about unlocking the opportunity to discuss, where the growth is, where we know where it's at, right? But we know, very, very familiar stat is that Hispanics represent 20% of the population, yet we only see less than 5% of the multicultural budgets. And, this is not to, really start it on a negative, but more sort of think about like, who's doing it right? What are the brands out there that are winning with Hispanic consumers? What are you seeing are the wins and how? What are the lessons that you think could be learned from that? So I'll start with Flor because I know we work together. We're actually partners, tech partners. So I'd like to hear from you first.
All right. The brands that are doing it right are the brands that are starting from the community and outward instead of like just building from the company or the brand inward, meaning the brands that want to sell something and then try to find an audience to sell that to are not maybe cultivating, relevance and culture-driven campaigns, whether the brands that are actually identifying decision-making behaviors, the culture that they want to tap in, and then trying to find a space as a brand within that community, within that culture. So I think in my opinion, the ones that are doing it right are tapping into the community, the cultural part of it, the behavior, rather than just tapping into an audience segment.
Great. Beautiful. Alex, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I would say just piggybacking on what you're saying, the brands that are doing right, they are investing deep understanding of the consumer, right? So really trying to understand who is this consumer, who is the Hispanic consumer they're trying to reach, what are their behaviors, to your point, what's the community, right? So, and what are the cultural lenses that it's really connecting with, right? So understanding community like Flor said, but also going deep in understanding this consumer.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I've been having this conversation. I echo everything you both said, and I've been having this conversation a lot lately, where I'm really feeling, and those that know me know I'm an eternal optimist, but I'm really feeling that the pendulum is shifting back to the business imperative of this market and the business imperative of this community, right? I think over the years, there's been highs and lows. It's been a roller coaster. I've been at this for many years, right? This year is 20 years of Republica Havas. So over these 20 years, and before that, I worked at Univision, and I worked in music, and I worked in sports. All of those years, we've always been sometimes preaching to the choir, right? And not getting the message out there to the right folks on the client side, on the brand side. I think that's really changing. I think today the pendulum is shifting where we got to go after the audience. We have to, what is our biggest growth audience? Since the pandemic, it's multicultural consumers in the US. 100% of the growth has come from these consumers. Companies, brands, clients are telling us the growth is coming from this market. So you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan to reach these consumers. And obviously the largest chunk of those are Latinos. So I do think that the pendulum's shifting, and today it's a business imperative. And I think marketers, CEOs, C-suites, CFOs are asking the question, what are we doing to reach these people? Because they're the growth. Our growth is going to come from this community. Over the years, there was a lot of like hearsay, blah, blah, blah. It maybe fell into CSR and community relations, DEI, many, many things. Today, it's back in marketing. It's back in business acceleration. It's back in growth. And I think that's a big opportunity for our market.
Well said. And I also think having the data that we have, all the insights that we have on the market are going to make, a big difference. So, we're in Cannes, obviously, not that I need to remind everyone in this beautiful view. But what's interesting, and I want to maybe bring this back to help our global marketers. The challenges that we discuss on the Hispanic market, marketing aren't really unique to us anymore. So, consumers everywhere are increasingly multilingual, multiple identities. Do you think that the Hispanic market can serve as a blueprint for the future marketing? And if so, what lessons would you share with our friends, our can marketers, our global marketers that we can emulate, that they can emulate based on what we've done?
I'll start. It's not an easy question. Well, I think the answer is yes, absolutely, because there's already brands and, like all of us here, we're already doing so many things, such a good result and success in some of the things that we're doing. So I think it's more like a matter of scale and how we can bring this cases that are proven to work, right? And bring success, business results, and engagement with communities. And the Latino community is all about participation, and it's about, I guess, being there for each other, such as we are. Well, that happens also at a consumer level. So, and I don't want to be repetitive, but like the thing that I said before, because there's brands that are already seeing the behavior of all of these communities and are trying to be a part of it and taking the time and the energy and their resources to think, okay, how do we do this? How do we get to be a part of this community without disrupting it, but living in this ecosystem rather than just, okay, I have this to sell. Let's try to sell it to these people that speaks in Spanish, which, it's not how it's supposed to be. So I guess that's my take on that.
I would say the future of marketing is, community, like we're just saying. It's heart and soul. It's humanity. So what a better group of people than Latinos to really, have a benchmark blueprint for that. So we know how to party, right? So we are kind and we are nice and we go above and beyond our means to really help people. And the world needs more of that. We are complex, right? So there's so many nationalities and slangs and, ways of communicate and traditions, but we are so loyal. If you're doing it right, if the brand is doing it right, we're going to stick with you, right? So definitely, if future marketing can be seen in the Latino community.
I love what you said by that, because I know that trust is it's hard to earn, but it's so easy to lose. So, keeping that in mind, and I think it does translate anywhere.
Well, I think building on that, I would say if we look at how Latinos are influencing the mainstream, it's happened with the Black community and how they've influenced music and fashion and so many things. And, in the last 2 decades, I would say, I've been with the agency, we've seen that. We've seen how, from what the Latin Grammys have become, to addition to that, Latin music, to fashion, to food, to lifestyle, Latinos are really influencing American culture, right? And I think that's, the investment, the investment hasn't caught up with how big the influence is of this community on the culture, right? And I think that the brands that have gotten that right for a long time and they're getting it right are the ones that are going to win into the future. Because like you were saying, and we were discussing it this morning at breakfast, the loyalty's there. For Latinos, they don't buy diapers, they buy Pampers. Why? Because P&G has been in, for decades, right? But that's the truth, right? That's the truth, right? And that's what we need to showcase, companies like theirs and many others, that have been doing it right for a long time, and that have won with the market and that do say that that's where the growth is coming from, right? So I think we have to evolve just to, like, the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the numbers, the proof is in your future, brand company.
Yeah, and double clicking on that, my next question has something to do with that, and you could repeat it. But I'm a seller, that I've always been a seller, but I think we all get this question. I think all of us, marketers, agencies, we all have to answer the same question, which is, how is this driving growth? How is this affecting my bottom dollar? What is my return? How do you feel? What do you feel are the right metrics or signals that CMOs should be paying attention to if they want to connect investment to performance? I mean, yes, we could talk about reach and frequency, of course, all the KPIs, but what are other signals and metrics that you feel maybe are not talked about often enough that should be?
I can start with that. Yeah. As a strategist at heart, I feel like I was trained as a classic, advertising, marketer, the basics, right? The activity metrics that you just mentioned, the reach, the impressions. We have to look at that. But is that laddering to the marketing metrics? Is that laddering to the business metrics? That's what we have to see. And then in this case, how can we measure creativity and how can we measure culture, right? So there are tools nowadays to measure that, right? So we know that Sama has, amazing tools, the cultural inclusive accelerator, SEAM. So we have tools to measure culture these days. So beyond the three ladders, right? So activity, marketing, and business, we can measure the cultural influence that we are having in those campaigns that we're putting out.
Okay.
Just building on that, two things I want to say. One is we've built a tool. This is for new companies that want to come into the market, right? So we built a tool called Culture IQ, and that is analyzing your entire ecosystem, your entire brand ecosystem, and kind of giving the company a score, based on where they're at and what are the things that could be done pretty quickly to have quick wins, so you can start seeing the uptick in success, right, for your company, your brand. That's one thing. The other thing that I should say is on Tuesday here at Cannes, Yannick Bolloré, Havas' global CEO, he announced that we made a second investment in a company called Verve Labs. And Verve Labs, what it is a company that they're building. It's like a extraordinarily big focus group online that meets humans with the agents. So we have over 3 million agents working nonstop, and a lot of those agents, our team has now trained them to look at multicultural cues and to look at multicultural insights and all that. So again, it's marrying both things together. I say that because that's what we need. We need to go into company A and say, hey guys, this is your market. This is the CAGR. This is the opportunity, and this is where it is. And these are your you have to start with these five cities. I'm talking U.S. You got to start with these 5 cities. Your lowest hanging fruit. One of our clients, Sedano Supermarkets, the largest supermarket chain in the country, Hispanic supermarket chain in the country in Florida. Partner with them. Partner with Jorge Gonzalez. Partner with HEB. And just there. You're gonna get a big chunk of the market you're trying to reach. Of the humongous opportunity you have right there, you're gonna reach 40%, right? So going in with those solutions, and I think that's what we have to start doing as a market, is go into clients with solutions that are gonna build their business and drive growth.
I would just like to add something to that, and I completely agree. But at the end of the day, I feel us as Latinos, me as a female founder, and like sit at tables where there's usually men, it's like it feels like we have to prove ourselves more and more and work harder for something that, if at the end of the day the campaign is going to work and the bottom line is going to be there, like, why do we have to come up with a specific metric that it's going to show that our job is being done if it's right there? So
because on the client side, they have to see why themselves. Right?
Yeah, but if it's putting something on the bottom line, I think it's not necessarily, but I do agree with what you guys say. It's not necessarily about the what, it's about the how to reach the result. Because since they maybe are not sure about how to do it, it's just everything, it's on the same bag, and it could be much better and it could compound over time if it was specific to the culture that it's actually influencing the mainstream market. So
1,000%.
Right?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So I agreed 100%. We said it at another panel. It's like we are held at different standards, so we have to work harder to get those dollars. But yeah, here we are. And I like what you said, Jorge. I mean, it really is. And I think we were talking about this at breakfast too. We had a good breakfast today.
Very good.
Really great breakfast. We discussed, about building coalitions and really working together. We had one of my competitors sitting next to me. We had a really nice conversation. It's about that, because I think together, sound very kumbaya, but it is. We do so much more. And so, yeah.
And building on that, and I remember, I'm old enough to remember when AHA was created. AHA was the Association of Hispanic Ad Agencies. Most of the people that created AHA, the founders, are in heaven. And may they all rest in peace, because they were extraordinary. You had like Eduardo Caballero, Teresa Huizarreta, and many others. And there's some they're still around and doing great, but several of them have passed. And the whole goal there was a rising, and this was in the 90s, right? A rising tide lifts all ships. And I really believe that, like you were saying, you were next to your competitor this morning. I was next to two of mine. We're dear friends, but we have to join forces, because it's not me against you or us against. No, it's us kind of sharing the gospel of this market and the opportunity the market has, right? And that's why I think the work that Carlos Santiago, that you're going to be doing now at the ANA, congratulations. The work you're going to be doing at the ANA. I was yesterday at the ANA. I sit on the board of the 4As, and I was representing the 4As at a meeting, which I saw they posted about it, so it's public. I guess it's a meeting of the CMO Growth Council, but it's about how does the agencies, the IAB, the research side, and the 4As come together at this moment in time. That's an inflection point for everybody. It's an inflection point for clients, an inflection point for agencies, an inflection for content creators. It's an inflection point for everybody. How do we all come together, right? If that's happening at that level, there was 35 CMOs in that room, right? 35 CMOs. But one of the things that was presented was actually, your work, inclusive marketing, and how, I make sure that diverse marketing is key and is one of the pillars that Mark Pritchard and others or Jane Wakely and others are leading there, right? But that is so important, because I think but then we as a community have to join forces. We have a community, we have to stop with any issues that may exist. I'm not saying there are any. I'm just saying we just got to say North Star is the growth of this market and the opportunity for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. So I know we have a short session, so I want to end it with a fun question for our panelists. We've been surrounded by CMOs this whole week. It's been wonderful. Ran into some cool ones, had some great conversations, and I always like to make a wish list. And we have 2 wishes, each of you. One thing you wish CMOs understood about our Hispanic audiences, and one thing you wish they would do differently. Alex.
Great question.
Very good question.
That might be seen like an advice from 20 years ago, like just thinking like in retrospect, but we still see this happening this day. Don't do translation of campaigns. That doesn't work. You're just spending money. Go deep. Like I was like from the beginning, just circle, full circle, right? So investigate, discover your consumer, go deep, see who they are. Like we are complex, like I mentioned before, but we're extremely loyal. So if you get it right, if you go beyond the translation and go to the cultural nuance, the relevancy, and find that, insights that is going to connect, it's going to make the consumer think, wow, they got me, they understand me. That's going to be a success.
Flor?
I'm very humble, so I just have one wish, but it's a good one. But I would say, because I own a small business, I would wish CMOs would save some budget, like to sit down and hear like ideas on, like smaller businesses. Just because there's always the budget for the big agency, but we have an obscene execution capacity and great ideas that can be put together fast, that are relevant for the market. So if you CMOs are hearing, just, that would be my wish.
I like it.
And mine is what I get to experience with CMOs, many that which I get to work with, that see us as partners. We're here to win together. We're here to make you successful, and vice versa. There's a hairstylist in the Hispanic market called Sammy that he always says, "Si tú luces bien, yo luco mejor," right? And if you look good, I look better, right? And I think that is powerful, right? Because that's what we're in. We're in this to win together. We're in this for you to shine, for you to sell product, for you to get people in your store or in your restaurant or whatever you're doing, you're selling your product, whatever it is. And we want to be successful, right? So our employees can be successful, so their families, it's a win-win on both sides. So see us as a partner and use our data, right, to help you win. That we have all the data, we have all the insights. We're here to support you in helping you win.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give my own wish.
Absolutely.
My wish is follow the growth. I mean, I think we're all doing it, but really follow it, really understand it, communicate, connect. And my other one, because I'm in sales again, I have to mention that, invest with intention. I think that's really important for us because we know we're doing everything with intentionality and reaching these audiences and talking to them and the way we know how to do with content, LatiNation Media with content creation on social. So let's do it together and invest the way it's supposed to be done. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
those watching.
Thank you all again.